baby, it's time to pick it up. I don't know if I gotta beat y'all upside your head with this book for y'all to pick this book up, because I feel like I've been talking about this book every year since I read it. And child, her sister is marrying her ex-boyfriend. She is who Colleen Hoover truly thinks she is. She is an icon, okay? So everybody knows who she is. I didn't even count and see how many 5 stars I had for this year, but I'm sure it's not that many just because of racism. Don't you just love that? Yeah, it just, it was so fun. It was so good. It was so good. I didn't even look over this. Let me grab some of these books. Okay, let me take my glasses. Child, take my glasses off. Let's see what the lashes looking like. Doable. Okay. Hello, booktubing world. It is I, Capri Nicole, and I'm back with another video. So I feel like it's been a while since I've said that, because I have not been filming. I'm so used to doing vlogs with y'all and have y'all with me all the time. So all these sit down videos that are starting to come up, your girl has been procrastinating to film. Not that I don't want to talk to y'all, but I just have not been finding the time, you know what I'm saying, unfortunately. So I'm gonna be filming this the day before I edit it, which is a choice and a risk in itself, but nevertheless, I'm gonna make it shake. So today we're here to talk about my top 10 favorite books from the year 2023, which is a hell of a year for a lot of people. I don't think I've seen anyone say they had a good year for 2023. I don't think I've heard anyone say they had a great year, it was their luckiest year, their happiest year. 2023, baby, we ready for you to hit the dust. I need you gone like today. New Year's is another one of my favorite times of year, and like the end of the year videos are also my favorite because I get to see everyone wrap up their year, do their resolutions, just a reflection on the year and stuff like that. So I'm excited for these next few videos. But honestly, when I was sitting down looking at the books that I read almost 140 books, and when I was sitting down and looking at these books, none of them really jumped out to me. None of them really jumped out to me. And here's why. It's because 2023 was a very mediocre reading year. Like, it was not a very exciting, memorable year. I think my favorite reading year so far has been 2021, and that was my blackout year. And I was putting in the work, finding those authors, finding those books, and I had so much fun that year, only reading books by Black authors. But this year, baby, this year felt like whiplash. Like, especially when it came to reading, a lot of these books I didn't even realize I read them this year. Like, I was just like, I read that this year? I could have sworn I read that like 3 years ago. This was the longest year of all time, okay? But I was able to come up with 10 of my favorite books, and then I started looking at some of the other ones, and I'm like, okay, I have a few honorable mentions. All in all, I have 10 of the best books of 2023. And then I have 3 honorable mentions. Some that weren't favorites but were memorable, were rereads, but I still want to mention them because they're some of my favorite books. So I'm ready to get into those. So the first books that I'm going to talk about are the 3 honorable mentions. Jinx is over here. So the first 3 books I'm going to talk about are the 3 honorable mentions. And the first one we're going to kick off this video with is Bones to the Wind. Now, this is an honorable mention because I did not read this book this year for the first time, but I reread it because I read it over on Erin's channel for her book club. We read the duology for her book club. I think it was for my birthday month of May. So we read this and we read the second book. And this was a reread for me, but baby, she still stands up. And might I say, this was her first successful book club book, because I've seen the other books she read and she ended up DNFing them or hating them. She gave this one 4 stars. So I ain't gonna say, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you have somebody that has not been liking any of their books, but they give a book that I recommended 4 stars, baby, it's time to pick it up. I don't know if I gotta beat y'all upside your head with this book for y'all to pick this book up, because I feel like I've been talking about this book every year since I read it. But if you don't know what this book is about, it basically follows the main character. Her name is Raja. She's a part of essentially a graduation ceremony that her and all her classmates go through in order to become adults. It's called the Forging, and you basically have to capture and kill a creature and bring it back in a selected amount of time with a selected group of people. And it's set in a desert land on ships, and it's very fun. It's very crazy. It's very insane. It's amazing, impeccable writing. And the characters, you can just feel their emotions. I just want so much. I want this book to get the love it deserves. I want this book selling out like 4 Flame. I just said the forbidden word, but I want this book selling out like some of those popular books that really ain't worth a damn. I want this book to get its shining light, and that's why it's one of my honorable mentions of the year. It was a reread, but it's still, she still holds up, baby. What can I say? What can I say? The next honorable mention that I have, I'm gonna have to pop up a picture because I read it on my Kindle, and it was Only for the Weak. Now this one, I think it's by the author Natasha Bishop, and this one is basically following the main character who is going to, I think she went to Tulum, her sister's wedding, and her sister is marrying her ex-boyfriend. So when I tell you this book was a mess, like, it was messy, but you could feel the closeness in the friendship group. You could feel the love. It was a little toxic at times, but so the toxicity was definitely addressed, and the romance in this book is between her and her ex's best friend. So her sister marrying her ex, and she talking to his best friend. My. Like, when I tell you it was messy, it was messy, but it was a healthy amount of mess, you know what I'm saying? It was a healthy amount of mess, and the romance was phenomenal. The smutty scenes were phenomenal. Like, I just love seeing gentle romance, like, not like huge grand gestures. Like, I love seeing subtle little things, like, oh, I heard you talk about this, I heard you say that you want to do this, or I heard you say you really want to try this, or whatever, and then just casually doing it. I like grand gestures too. I am a grand gesture girly. I love to see it, and especially love to see it when it comes to black girls. Like, especially my black girls in romance, like, we deserve our happy endings too, you know what I'm saying? So I really enjoyed that one, but it wasn't a favorite, but I still feel like it was like close to being one. So I felt like it needed to be a part of the honorable mentions. So if you haven't picked that book up yet, I highly recommend that you do. The third and final honorable mention would be Finding Me by Viola Davis. I listened to this on audiobook, obviously, because when someone's narrating their life, especially if they're an actor, I love to hear their voice. Like, especially like Will Smith's autobiography, I absolutely loved it, and hers was so devastating. It just was so sad, especially reading about someone that experienced and saw abuse firsthand. It just was difficult to read. It was hard to read. It was sad, just seeing that never-ending cycle of abuse with her mother and her father, and still trying to find ways to still finding ways to love on her parents and find success in her own life, and learning ways to pull away from her family in order to get her success. It just was like very sad. Like, it was very sad. It was very difficult to read, but I really loved the way she narrated her story. I loved hearing about her accomplishments. I loved hearing about how she became who she is today. I loved hearing all her stories about the roles that she played and the challenges she faced. I just love hearing people's stories, especially when I know in the end they make it, and in the end, even though things are difficult, things do get better. It may not be perfect, but they definitely get better. So I really enjoyed her autobiography. It was very beautifully done. I loved it, so I definitely wanted to add it in the honorable mention. Okay, so now that we have gotten the honorable mentions out of the way, let's talk about our top 10. So I didn't think about this until now, but I don't have it in order from like my favorite to my least favorite. This is just kind of like a put together list, and we just gonna talk about it and see how, and just talk about the books that I liked, because like I said, 2023 wasn't like an amazing reading year, or a reading year that I will never forget. So it's not like I really have to rank these. The first book that I have for best books of 2023 is Before I Let Go. Now this book, oh, it was so devastating. It was so sad. It was just, Kennedy Ryan knows how to write emotions on page, baby. She is who Colleen Hoover truly thinks she is. Like, she be putting fire to page. Like, these emotions from these characters, you can feel everything that they're going through, even if you haven't personally gone through it, or you can't relate to it, or you don't care about it. It's just so gut-wrenching. It's just so sad. If you don't know what this book is about, it is following the main characters who are divorcees from each other, and they end up in a second chance romance, and they've experienced a lot of trauma together, a lot of loss together, a lot of sadness together, a lot of highs and a lot of lows. So they have 2 children together, and it's basically their second chance romance, and baby, it was so good. It was so good. Now, I'm not a fan of romance books being damn near 400 pages, but this one, I'll accept. I'll accept this one being in 400 pages because some of these damn quotes, like these quotes, I just love seeing the history of two characters and it just being written on page to where you feel like you really know these people. Like, this is a perfect example of just seeing the backflashes and then seeing the current day and just drawing that connection and just seeing everything they've been through together. It's exhausting and it's sad, and even her quotes about depression and loss were just, they just were so well done. Like, I could not put this damn book down. I was reading this in the airport, I was reading this, trying to read this, halfway falling asleep, child. I was just having an amazing time reading this. Sad, but there's beauty in the end of it all. So really enjoyed this. Love the cover. I have the second book, but I haven't picked it up yet, so I just love this cover so much. Yeah, this very job well done, you know what I'm saying. Second book that I have is Icebreaker, and this was one of the books where I was like, did I really read this book this year? Because it really feels like I read this book last year. I'm just like, when's it? I could have sworn, I don't know. I'm really surprised by this. I really feel like I read this book a different year. I didn't feel like I read this book this year, but nevertheless, I did read this book this year. This book is very popular, very well beloved, and honestly, I was skeptical going into this book because look how thick this damn book is. I was like, oh hell no. But the cover is so cute, and I was excited to see what the hype was about because you know what? Me and hype books, sometimes we just don't get along, baby, and that's okay. To each his own. I will drag a hype book to the pits of hell if I think it's not up to par, if I think the writing is really terrible and people are I don't know, my phone ringing, child. Like I was saying, hype books are hit or miss for me, but I was so happy that this was a hit because I love the cover and I was really hoping I enjoyed it, because despite the fact that I love a good drag of a popular book that I feel like is not deserved, I also like being part of the hype. Like, it's nothing more fun than being a part of something that's super popular and super hyped up and everyone's talking about the same thing and everyone's so excited and so happy. Like, being a part of that little group where y'all can all relate to each other and everybody's just happy and excited about the same thing, that's always fun. So anytime I can get into that little loop, it's just so nice. But I ain't gonna fake the funk. Like, if I don't like it, I don't like it. But luckily, I liked Icebreaker. So I really enjoyed Icebreaker. It's one of my faves. Like, I feel like this author does a really good job of writing, again, writing depth to her characters and writing emotion on page. There was a lot going on with these characters and a lot of things going on with friendships as well, but I feel like all of the characters really jumped off the page and all of them had such funny characteristics and funny moments. A lot of toxic behavior again was delved in. The best friend toxicity was like very interesting to me because, you know, sometimes romance authors really veer off track when it comes to romance books. They just trying to add a whole bunch of stuff to make that page count, but it was interesting and nice to see a toxic friendship and see the way that that was handled and see the push and pull of that in this book. It was also nice to see the found family in this book. It was nice to see both of them be so passionate about their respected sport. She was an ice skater. I'm not sure if that's the correct term. Figure skater. So she's a figure skater and he's a hockey player. So it was nice to see them both in their respective sport and how passionate and hard they worked for success on both sides. So this is basically like a kind of like, not a hate to love, but like a enemy to lover romance. They did not like each other. Ended up having to share a skating rink after a prank happened from one of the other hockey players, quote unquote. So this is just their love story. And the smut scenes, honestly, the smut scenes made it, but I really liked both of the characters because I love a female main character that is an ice queen. Like, icy attitude, mean. I love them because I love to see them melt and break down when it comes to love. Like, it just eats every time. Like, girls that be like super sunshine, bubbly, happy about everything in life, they're on the back burner for me. Like, I would prefer the guy to be like that, and I like when the girl's like an ice queen and she slowly melts and she has her little moments where like she usually would be mean about something, but now she being nice about it. It eats. Like, what can I say? But really enjoyed this. As you can see, it is tabbed to hell and back. So yeah, I tabbed the hell out of this, and I love this so much. It was such a fun time, and I was so happy to go back to TikTok and look up all the little edits and stuff. Like I was saying, it's fun to be in the loop of popular things sometimes, but you know, if you don't like something, you don't like something. But luckily I liked this one. I was happy to be a part of the other girlies that was loving it, because it just is definitely one of my faves. Next one that I have to talk about is The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, and I don't have this physically, but I will soon. Mind you, I will soon. So I listened to this one on audiobook, and my, it was so good. It was a short story collection of women and their love lives and the complexity of it. Like, there just was like so many different types of relationships in this damn book, and it just was so well done. Like, secret lovers, secret relationships, you know, mistresses. We got it just was it was the perfect, it was just like the first time that I really read a short story collection where I liked almost all of the stories. It's always like a handful that you like out of the short stories, and they mix it up to where it's like every 3 stories you like. But this one, all of them were hits. Well, almost all of them. I think like maybe 1 or 2 I just thought were okay, but it was so well done. I don't want to talk too much about what it's about, because it's more fun going into it blind, but it is just about secret lives of women, and it's just so good. It's just so good. All the characters are just so complex and so interesting, and I just loved it. I think my favorite one was like the last one. I can't remember what it was called. This definitely was a favorite. Like, I was just gripped from start to end. Like, it just was like devastating. It was intriguing. It was just so good. It was so good, and I really want a physical copy, because I just want to go back through it and annotate and highlight her and add her to the favorite shelf, because she is a spot well deserved. Speaking of a spot well deserved, let's talk about bell hooks. So this year I read like 5 bell hooks books, and my god, they were all so hard-hitting. They were all so interesting. I just love hearing intelligent, articulate black women break down things. Like, I just am so in awe of it, because I love to hear them explain things and dive into our history. And one of my favorite books that I read from her was Feminism is for Everyone. I read all of her books back to back, so I can't remember if it was Ain't I a Woman or Feminism is for Everyone. That was so hard for me to read. Like, one of those books, I can't remember which one it was, but it dived deep into the history of black women and white women, and the compare and contrast of how black women uplift black men and how black men don't in return uplift black women in most cases, and just the relationship between white women who are feminists and black women who are feminists, and the toxicity in black feminism where a lot of trans women are not supported in the black community. And it just dived into so many different things. Like oh my god, she really covered everything. Like, in those 2 books, Ain't I a Woman and Feminism is for Everyone, she really covered everything. And just hearing that she wrote this as an essay when she was in college, like, and she went back and made it into a book. It's just like, sister, where's your awards? Like, you need some awards, you need some round of applause. Like, she is just such a she's just a well-renowned author. Like, obviously she's very, I'm not gonna say she's popular, she is an icon, okay? So everybody knows who she is. But I know you damn lying. Get your ass down. Lost your damn mind. I was just so in awe of her writing and so in awe of her brain. Like, I just love hearing people dive into history where they can really break down, this is the problem, this is where it started, this is how we fix it, this is what we can do to make it better, this is what we can do to change. And when mainstream feminism is like something that's also being tackled in today's day and age, the topic as far as feminism is concerned, it was nice to see her also try to tackle that topic back in the day, because it's just been an ongoing thing. So yeah, phenomenal work, and I want all of her books. I think I purchased 2 of them after I did my bell hooks binge. I will put the video up here if you guys want to see my in-depth thoughts, because I did it for a vlog during Melanin Book Magic, which is Black History Month videos. So I'll put it up here. If you guys want to check that out, you can see more of my in-depth thoughts current time. But that book was phenomenal. And I Woman was phenomenal. Men and Masculinity was phenomenal. All About Love, phenomenal. Like, all of the books, they all hit. Like, they were all bangers. And what I loved about her was that she also called herself out and addressed some of the things that she did wrong, or she felt like she could improve in as a feminist and as a woman and as a Black woman and as a girlfriend and as everything. Like, she just hit the nail on the head. Like, I loved reading her books. And she's definitely one of those authors that's like Toni Morrison. Every time you reread it, you'll take something else from it. So I'm really excited to physically have those books and be able to sit down, annotate them, and take more from the stories. So there's that. Okay, another one that I didn't even count and see how many 5 stars I had for this year, but I'm sure it's not that many, but it's okay. This was one of them that was a 5 star, and man, The Savior's Book Cafe Story in Another World. Long title, great story, especially the first book. I feel like the rest of the series kind of like fell off for me, but the first book was really a banger. It's just following this main character who's in her 30s, and this god comes to her and says, you know, I need your help in another world, and you can wish for anything, and whatever you wish for, I'll grant, but I need you to come to this other world and be a savior or whatever. But she's like, I'm not going to another world unless you give me this, this, and this. So he gives her all these powers, all these magical abilities, and she ends up going to this other world and opening like this very cozy book cafe. And just the magical aspects of that whole cafe was just so cute. I feel like the romance would have been nice to see like develop. It kind of just was like they loved each other and then they were just like together. But nevertheless, the first one I really enjoyed. It just was so cozy, it was so precious, it was so sweet. The setting was so well done. Like, it was just so nice to just follow along with these characters and just see her come into her magical ability, see her get to know the townspeople, see her get to know the villains in the story. Like, it really was just like really fun and very cozy. I feel like the atmosphere was set so well, and I just got the 5-star tingles. It was just a fun time. And this was in a video. I think it was in a searching for a 5-star book video, so I'll link it up here if you guys want to check it out. But yeah, once I got them 5-star tingles, baby, that was it. The rest is history. So I really enjoyed this one. I highly recommend the first one especially. The next book that was a favorite from this year was The Marvelers. So The Marvelers was another book that I read during a 5-star search video, and it was a very unexpected surprise. Like, this is just like if Harry Potter was way more diverse and had way more culture. It was just it just was everything. Like, I know everybody's tired of Harry Potter being the comparison for all magical schools, blah blah blah, but I'm just trying to give you an idea. It's just like so much more culture, so much more diversity, and I just love that the author used names of other Black authors. It just it was so fun. Like, it's basically following this main character that is in a world where there are conjurers and there are marvelers. And so conjurers are people that make magic, people that are, you know, essentially witches, people that practice voodoo, hoodoo, people that conjure up magic. They physically have the ability to bring magic into this world, but they don't have a specific trait that is a magical ability. Marvelers are people that are born with a specific magical trait. So the Marvelers are kind of like these magical icons where they're very well respected and very well celebrated, but the conjurers are kind of like looked down upon because they conjure up magic, and they're just always been rivals. But the main character, Ella, ends up going to this magical school where she's the first conjurer that's accepted in there, and they don't like that. They try to bully her, but she was standing on business. She was like, y'all not about to bully me, little girl me. Like, I'm not standing for that. So just seeing her and her learning about, just seeing her come into her magical ability, come into the magical school, make friends, be a little bit of an outsider, not backing down. I loved her as a main character, and I loved the magic. There was a scene where she was getting her hair braided, and it was her mom's magical hands braiding her hair. I just loved it. Like, it just has so much culture, so much diversity, so much fun, and the magic was just like so cool to me. Like, I immediately bought a physical copy because I was listening to it on audiobook, but I just feel like it's so underrated. I haven't heard anyone talk about this book. I've seen people haul it, I've seen people talk about it, but I haven't seen many people read it. And I know middle grade and, you know, children's books aren't, you know, everyone's cup of tea, but please, you know, y'all read YA, so give this one a chance. Like, it just was so much fun and just was so well done. And I feel like Donnell, what's it, Donnell Clayton? Yep, Donnell Clayton has such a skill in writing magical worlds. Like, her other book, The Bells, I really loved because she just has this, she just is so good at writing magical creatures and magical worlds and very vivid settings where you can really feel like you're a part of it, and it feels so real and so well done. Everyone says the second one is not worth it, so I never read the second one. I just read the first one. But I loved that world, I love that setting, so I highly recommend this one if you like, you know, YA, children's, magical schools. I recommend this because the plot is interesting and the main character is fun to follow along. So pick it up. Next book that I have to talk about is a book that I read for my, I think I read this one for my book club, and it's called Their Vicious Games. And my God, you know, the books that surprise me are always gonna be bangers. Like, when I go into it not expecting anything and it just shocks me, especially when it's written by an author I've never read anything by before. Wow, Their Vicious Games was so well done. I did see a lot of well-deserved hype around this book, and I'm so glad I read this book. So it's basically following a main character who is going to this prestigious high school with all these frumpy prestigious children and all their rich parents, and they're all trying to get into rich colleges and whatever. And she ends up getting blacklisted from an incident where she was, I think, defending herself, or she got into a fight or something like that with one of the girls, and she ended up getting blacklisted. Child, all the schools wrote her off, all her friends stopped talking to her. It just was like a big scene, a big issue, and she's like upper middle class, so the rest of them are just like extremely wealthy, extremely rich. Her losing those opportunities, losing her scholarships, losing those offer letters just based off of one incident was kind of devastating for her. She's trying to get into this Ivy League school, and she ends up entering this competition that happens every year with this very well-known rich family, getting accepted into that competition and fighting with other competitors in order to get in to, like, her, you know, get the opportunities that she wants and the opportunities that she deserves, because she lost everything. So she, at this point, she's kind of like, well, what else do I have to lose? Like, I've lost all my scholarships, I lost all my friends, I lost any opportunity I had for like a new beginning in an adult life. So, but this is like invite only, so she ends up getting invited to this competition, and man, that's all you need to know. You just need to know it's a competition. It has to do with very wealthy people, Ivy League schools, and them willing to do anything to get what they want. And that's it. It just gives very Ace of Spades, the movie, I think it's called Hide and Seek. It just is very eerie, it's very dark, it's very twisted, it's very insane, and you have to go into it blind. Like, it's so much better going into it blind. Don't even read the synopsis. Like, just either listen to it or read it physically, whatever you decide. It's so well done. The writing is phenomenal. Like, the writing is so good. And I think I read this in a vlog too, so I'll link it up here if you guys want to see like my actual thoughts on it. But that book was so well done, and it was a surprise to me because I picked it up on a whim because I heard so many people say such good things about it, and it's really a good book. Like, if you love competitions, if you loved Ace of Spades, if you like scary movies that are set in like castles and these wealthy families are just so full of themselves, you gotta check it out. You have to check it out. I'm telling you, it's so good. It's just so good. There were so many good quotes in that book, which is why it's hard for me to like, when I love when I find a book on audio that I really love, but then I also be really sad because I'm like, damn, I wish I read this physically so that I could highlight all these quotes and these stories. But it's okay to go back to it and just reread it and highlight it once I get there. You know what I'm saying? Once I highlight it, once I get the physical copy. But Their Vicious Games, phenomenal book, well-deserved slot. Speaking of phenomenal books, I'm back. yeah, it's time to talk about the second book in Tatiana Obey's series. I talked about the first one already, Bones to the Wind, which was an honorable mention. This is the second book in the duology. No, like I was saying. So the second book in Tatiana Obey's duology, Bones to the Wind, you know what I'm saying? What is it? Okay, yeah. A Forging of Age duology. So I didn't know what the name of the series was, but it's a duology, and I talked to y'all about Bones to the Wind 1,000,001 times. Like, y'all know y'all sick of me talking about it, but I don't give a damn. I'm gonna keep talking about it, and you gonna keep hearing about it, so just deal with it. The second one, oh my god, if you are looking for a story to wrap up perfectly and beautifully, and it don't break your heart, and it just, everything just goes to plan, and everybody just holding hands and kumbaya in the end, don't pick up this book. Don't pick up this book, because you know what? It is too realistic. It is too realistic. If you looking for a happy ending, you not getting it with this damn book. Like, it was so devastating, but it was so good. It was so good. Like, she is so good at writing emotions and truth to her characters. Like, she stayed true to her characters. Even when the characters had character development and emotional development, they still were themselves. They still, the decisions that they made and the situation that they ended up in were very true to who they were as characters. And my god, I'm so used to fantasy books where the main character gets dragged through the mud and it seemed like the world is coming to an end and they ain't gonna make it out alive for like 3 books, and in the end, you know, things kind of get better. That was all thrown out the window with this book, and my god, I teared up like 3 times. I really want to reread this next year because I was reading this along with Erin for her book club book, and I waited till the last second to read this book. But my god, even when I actually was doing really good with my pacing, but then I stopped at one point, and then I was rushing to finish. But it was so many situations that I teared up reading this book because it just was so heartbreaking. But it was real. Like, it was realistic. Like, you know how you read a book and you like, damn, this is sad, but like, this would really happen. Like, if this was like real life and this was like really was a thing, I could see this happening. And my god, the emotions in this book was so well done. I tabbed this. Look at this. Can y'all see that? Tabbed. Like, she is tabbed to the gods. Like, it just... And she signed it to Capri. Tomorrow the hunt begins anew. I can't speak highly enough of this author. It's really because her writing is impeccable. Like, I teared up at least 3 or 4 times reading this because I was so connected to these characters, and I just wanted to see them skip off into the sunset. And that sunset crashed and burned for me because it was no skipping. It was just very real. Like, it was real. It was devastating. It was true to the characters. And I just love her for it. I just love for the way that she did this second book. Like, she really did it. And she didn't drag it out to make it 5 books. She didn't drag it out to she wrapped it up in 2 books. Like, that was it. She didn't need to drag it to another 3 other books. And it was so well done. So well done. Like, I can't stop thinking about this book. Like, I just can't. Every time I look at it, I just want to cry. But it's so good. It's such a good book. So I highly recommend that duology. Y'all be dragging it for 6 books and book series with 15 books. I know y'all can read a 2-book series. So please pick that up, especially if you're a fantasy girl. Please. Like, I can't beg any more than I already have. Next book that I have to talk about is Delicious Monsters. Another book that I read on audiobook. You know what? All the books that I was excited about, or I felt like were going to be so great, so amazing, they weren't. They really were not. All the books that I kind of went in skeptical about, and I was like, is this gonna be good? Or I just picked it up on a whim. Those were the bangers. So 2023 was definitely the year of the year of surprise, especially when it came to books. So this was another book that I picked up on a whim, and it was Delicious Monsters. I was skeptical about this because I read the author's debut, and I absolutely hated that book. I dragged it to the pits of hell. I did not like that book at all. Like, I did not. And I was pissed because the cover is so gorgeous, and I don't give a damn. I'm never getting rid of that cover. And I wanted more. I wanted to like that book so bad. You know how you just end up being mad that you don't like a book? But this one this one was really well done. And I'm wondering if it's just the genre that she wrote, because this one was so well done. And it was more creepy and more horror and more eerie and more mystery. And I feel like maybe that's her genre. I don't feel like authors should be limited to specific genres. But you know how sometimes they just have those bangers where it's like they're gonna thrive in this genre specifically. And I feel like when it came to like a horror mystery aspect book that Delicious Monsters was, she really soared with this book. Like, it really was so well done. The writing was beautiful. The characters were frustrating at times but relatable. The scene was set so well. It was so, I was questioning everything. I didn't trust anyone. I didn't know what the hell was going on at some points. And the ending was, whew, the ending was so well done. The commentary on black girls going missing and things to that nature, and just black mother and daughter relationships, toxic relationships, familial relationships that are also toxic. Just the whole small bits and pieces of commentary on the black experience and black girls that have gone missing. Just those small commentaries where it wasn't like, I just like when people do subtle commentary on racial injustices and racial issues, where it's just like they give you this information and you can look at it and be like, oh, okay, that's not right, that's not okay. And you get the opportunity to have your own emotion on what the information they give you. You know what I'm saying? Instead of it just being like an info dump where they're just telling you how to feel. I really think she hit the nail on the head with this one. The writing was so well done and the cover eats. So I was very happy that I enjoyed this, and I really want to get a physical copy so that I can reread it and really tab it up and put it on the favorite shelf, you know what I'm saying? So Delicious Monsters, I don't really want to talk about what the synopsis is because I think it's better if you go into it blind, but it's following 2 different timelines, and that's basically all you need to know. You can go look at the tag words, but I feel like this is a book that is better off with little to no knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like, just go into it blind. It's definitely a hidden gem. I feel like I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but not a lot of people read it. So I definitely recommend that book. I think this is the final book, I believe. Yeah, I don't have any more on the floor. So this is the final book for this one, and it is I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast is Me. And I just read that recently for my book club book, and it's just so many. All of these, honestly, all of these books are in video, so if you see them on the thumbnail of any of my videos, I know we have a lot of new islanders. Y'all can go check that out so you can see my live opinion on these books. But I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast is Me is basically following this black ballerina that is living in Paris, and she is going to this prestigious school, but she's not being recognized for her talent just because of racism. Don't you just love that? Yeah, because of racism. So she just doesn't have the same opportunities as everyone else, and she kind of gets sick of that shit. She kind of just like, all right, enough is enough, and she just go enough is enough, and she take it to a 10. Like, she got annoyed and she went to the Dark Lord. Like, she said, oh, okay, I'll take care of it, don't even worry about it. She went straight to the Dark Lord. Like, there was no there was no like in between. Like, it was just like, I'm fed up. Like, I'm tired of killing myself. I'm tired of risking all these things just to barely be recognized. She was like, I'm gonna take matters into my own hands. And you know what? She was a very flawed main character, and I loved it. I love dark, villainous, morally gray, flawed female main characters, especially when they're black female main characters, because I feel like they don't get enough grace. So it's nice to see her do things that are questionable and being willing to sacrifice anything to get what she wants. And we actually got to see her teeter darker and darker and darker and darker into these, essentially these wishes that she made to like the dark catacombs, the dark lord, the dark river, all that. Yeah, we got to slowly see her crack. And I just love seeing main characters crack, because when they're under all that pressure where they're trying to be perfect, they're trying to make everything just and make everything go right, and they just get sick of doing it and you get to see them slowly crack, it's always so interesting to me, and I really enjoyed it. I will say the beginning was a little rough because it was just like live, laugh, love ballet. Like, we didn't get a break. Like, it was just straight up ballet, 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 ballet. Like, sister, we get it. We got it. You don't need to tell us anymore. You said enough. I think we got it. But once you got past that, like, word vomit about how amazing ballet is, and you actually got to see her as a character and see the sacrifices she made, it was great to follow along. And the romance in it, I love the romance in it. I feel like a lot of people didn't like it, but it was a dark romance in there, and, you know, like little hints of it. It wasn't the main focal point, but I really enjoyed it. And I love the quotes in this. Like, I just loved it. I just loved it. And I feel like a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people talk about this book again, but I have not seen a lot of people read it. I know I kept seeing this cover floating around on Bookstagram and stuff like that, so it was nice to actually pick it up and be in the loop. But that is, I think that's it. Those are all 10 of the books. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I'm like looking around trying to see, it's books all over my desk. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. So those are all 10 of the books and the 3 honorable mentions. I feel like if you have read any of these books, I would love to hear your opinion about them in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite book that you read this year, or a book that stood out to you the most this year, or a book that you're excited to read next year in the comment section below. If you made it to the end of this video, please leave this emoji right here in the comment section below so I know that you made it to the end of the video. Always remember, read a book, keep your life interesting, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye. Bye.